All right, so this is week one, day three. We are doing a JavaScript review today. And today we are going to do a game in our review here called the the debug dungeon. Escape the debug dungeon. Yay. I am like so nerding out over this. And thank you to ChatGPT for creating images that match all my slides for me. Okay, so for this game overview, we are going to solve JavaScript-based puzzles to escape our themed rooms. Each room is going to contain some code or logic challenge that you'll have to reason through. If you get it wrong, you're stuck in the room, but we're pretty much all going to progress through to the end. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong. And I will probably call on individuals for each slide to give me their opinion. So just be ready for that. Won't be scary. Okay. Did I click? Nope. There we go. All right. So first challenge, room one, is the Whispering Hall. So the concept we're going to cover for this room is the scope in JavaScript and a temporal dead zone. So as we can see, a ghost whispers secrets from the darkness. The inscription reads, "The answer is already here, unless it isn't. Determine why this message cannot be heard." So here is the code snippet. I wonder, oh, because I'm presenting, I can't copy and paste it. I will wait and let y'all type it into your IDE. And thankfully, since it's JavaScript, we don't have to worry about spacing, perfect spacing, but you do have to remember your semicolons and your curly brackets. Although the semicolon arguably can be left off nowadays, but it's good practice to leave it on. So that way you can explicitly enclose your blocks of code. So I'm going to give a little bit for y'all to work on this and expect me to I'm just going to go through alphabetically, okay? So Alana is probably going to be the first up to take a stab at the solution of why. Like first figure out, run this code, go ahead and run it and see what it does. And then I want you to explain why it does that. Should have had some music for this too at the same time. Maybe next time. Let's see. I could probably change my displays. Nope. Show taskbar? Heck yeah. Okay, I might be able to copy and paste then. Or, oh, thank you, Steph. I just pulled up the chat. I see that now. Okay. So Alana, have you been able to run it and see what it does?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask what the question was again.
So the question is, why is this not printing message? Like, why can't I console log anything to the screen? Because I assume you ran it, and what happened?
Reference console is not defined at Whisper.
Okay, so we get like a reference error saying that something's not defined.
Okay.
Okay, so why would that reference error happen? Like we could see
Okay,
messages being,
so
oh, go ahead.
you your let message out equals outside. Outs Shouldn't outside be inside of line 9 in the parentheses?
So you mean, sorry, I don't have lines on mine. So is that
Oh,
down here you
okay.
mean in the
Yeah, the
whisper?
console. Yeah. the
Okay.
console.log whisper.
So that would be a good thought, because right now we think there's an issue with the visibility of these variables, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because for some reason, when we return message, which we're calling this function, right now we can see based on how this function is defined that there are no parameters being passed into it. We can just call this function as it is by name without passing any parameters into the function. So we're calling this function. And we see that it should be writing something to our console, and then it should return that message at the end. Um, so when we console log whisper, it's going to run, we get console log message. What message do you think this is trying to write to the console right here?
Um, that first one is gonna write outside, and then wouldn't the second one be inside?
Okay, so by defining this message outside here, this is going to be kind of a globally scoped variable. So this is one that should be visible to everything within the code. However, we have in JavaScript within functions, these locally defined variables can be hoisted, is what it's called. They can be hoisted so that this function knows there is a variable called message within it. But because we are trying to print it before it's initialized, it doesn't have a value. Like it's not initialized with a value to be able to reference in console log. So scope matters with where we define our function or define our variables and how we define our variables. Right now we've got this outside message, which we could probably see in here, but because we have one inside, that's the same. Um, it is, this function sees it, but it doesn't know what it is because it's trying to print it before it's defined. So how can we fix this so that when we print it, it does know what it is?
Swap console log and let.
Yep, exactly. We would just swap those two so that it is defined before we try to print it. So the inner let overshadows this outer let. Do we understand that? That this function can see both of these variables, but because of how JavaScript hoists its variables in the function itself, it knows that this exists, so it won't even try to read this one because this one takes precedence as a locally scoped and tries to print that. So if we swap them, if y'all swap it, then it should work and it should print that inside message just fine.
I got inside, inside.
Yep, perfect. So why do we get two insides?
Because both console logs are going to refer to the inside scoped one and not before the outside one that's at the top.
Yep, exactly. So this console log will fire off right here within this function, and then the function returns message, which is defined as inside within it, right? And then down here, when we say console log the result of this function, that's pulling that return value from message and displaying it on the screen. So this one's kind of hard because I don't know how much the pre-work goes into scope of your variables and the difference between a global variable and a locally defined variable and how JavaScript's weird and does weird things with how it can hoist and have all these reference error issues. So just be very aware of where you're defining your variables and how you're referring to them. With I will say if you use var instead of let, var is I don't want to say deprecated, but we don't see it used as much nowadays in JavaScript. We typically use const and let, but var would print if you had this set up like it is here and you had var message equals inside, that one then would print undefined instead of a reference error because var would actually hoist it and initialize it to undefined initially within the function. Just some little tidbits there. Okay, scope. Make sure you know where you're defining your variables and where you're referring to them. If you get a reference error, check that first, how you've got them set up and where it's referencing. All right, well, thank you, Alana, for reasoning out with that one. Let's go to the next one here. Room 2 is the type goblin. So we're now looking at data types in JavaScript. We're looking at strings versus numbers here. Goblin Merchant offers you 10 gold and 5 bonus gold. Unfortunately, he is terrible at math. Predict what happens when he counts his treasure. So here we have let gold equals 10. Make sure this is a string. And let the bonus equal 5 is an integer. Console log both of these. And don't run it yet. Try to figure out first what happens, like what we would expect to see if we do gold plus bonus, and then what we would expect to see with gold minus bonus. And it's going to be up to Brenda this time to give your thoughts. Question while we're working on filling this out. With the gold equaling 10, that string, do I have to use double quotes all the time? No, I see some head shaking. No, no, you don't have to use double quotes. You can use single quotes. You can use when we do, oh gosh, what is it called? Concatenation. Yeah. When we do concatenation, you can use backticks as well when we throw in some variable names, but single or double quotes don't matter. However, when you do want to put quotes within your string, then it does matter. I'd have to look up again which one you have to use in that instance. I think you have to use single quotes on the outside and double on the inside. But I cannot remember. But when you're ready, Brenda, if you want to let me know what you think will happen when we try to do this gold, this 10, which is a string, plus 5. And then what would happen if we do 10 minus 5 with these data types?
So if we do the 10 plus 5, it looks like it's going to try to merge them together. So it will be like 105 instead of the 10 plus 5. And then when you do the 10 minus 5, I think it just does the subtraction of like 5.
That's correct. So if you run it, you'll see that's how it ends up working. JavaScript with its data types, you can have a lot of coercion going on, which is where you will identify it as a certain data type, but JavaScript can attempt to change it into a different data type to allow the operation to continue. When we do 10 plus 5, it's treating this as a string, and then it's just going to try to concatenate on a 5 into this string, at least for the addition. But when we use the subtraction, that operator only works with numbers because so when we're doing string concatenation, you can do like the first series of strings plus another series of string plus another series or characters, whatever, another series of characters, and it will throw them all together into one string, right? So that plus symbol works for that perfectly fine. But there is no way that a minus symbol works on a string at all. So because it cannot work for strings and it only works with numbers, then JavaScript coerces this to be a number and performs the operation as a number. So how can you fix this to instead of do a concatenation to make 105? Sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong screen. What? So instead of just concatenating this on to make 105, how can I actually get this to behave the way I want it to? I want to make sure that it adds 10 plus 5 to give me 15.
So I think you would need to change how the 10 is, because I'm trying it out over here. Um, Trying it in the, what is it called? The closed, um, in the closed brackets.
I'm trying to imagine what.
Should I take a screenshot? Like the brackets instead of making it a string.
Oh, okay. So changing
The
the
10.
the 10 into a different data. Well, how can you change it without actually changing this? Oh, is that what you mean? You're trying to put it in brackets down here or sorry, down here into the console log or just up top here?
No, so I did it at the top and it gave me the output of 5. Um, I'm trying different things, sorry.
So
I'm like trying to
essentially,
figure out how I would add it and how it would
yeah. So
subtract
essentially,
that.
what do I want? Like, I want 10 to be a number, right? So in order for me to add these two together, ideally 10 could be a number. And there is a way to make 10 a number. With JavaScript, you can throw on a number and then parentheses. Let's see if I can pull this up without. And I'm going to copy this too. It's so hard to have multiple screens like this. Okay. So we can do number around that variable. And number, if we hover over it, and this is helpful for a lot of things if you don't know how it behaves when you're pulling down code to work in, you can hover over it and see that it's showing that it's a number constructor. So this will take anything and turn it into a number. So we can use this to ensure that whatever this variable's giving us, we change it to a number as long as it can be coerced into a number. So we can't give it like number and have it have like a string of ABC, but we can give it a string of 10, which definitely looks like a number, and JavaScript can turn it into a number for us. There's also parse int is another one. It looks like this. I'll do it on this one, even though we don't have to. Parse int, which converts a string into a number as well. So these are just functions or methods we are calling on this variable here that we have defined above. Okay, any questions on the point of
Um,
this is, oh, yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say, as a good reminder that when you call for the number function, it has to be a capital N, even though you usually use camel case. You have to use capital N for those specifically.
Yep, good call out there.
I got a question.
Yes.
Would you ever, do you always want to go this route, or could it be to just remove the string by just removing the quotations?
Yeah, this is fine too, but sometimes like in a real world situation, you can't,
You can't go through the whole data, so you just want
yeah.
to, okay, you just
Yeah,
want to
so
do.
you would see this in like a validation type setting to make sure that every entry that comes in through like let's say you have a form, you're collecting phone numbers or something. Well, that's a bad example. Age. You're collecting age and somebody accidentally types something weird. You try to format it into what your program is expecting. Oh no,
Understood.
your VS Code isn't running anything. So when you come up to the terminal, we open the terminal and then let me see if I'm in the same spot. No, I'm not. So if you open your terminal and you do ls and you do not see the file you're working in, make sure you change directory to wherever that file is located. So that's the first step.
I do see it when I type ls, but when it pulls it up in VS Code, there's not even the button to run it for some reason. But if I go to um, like a Python code that I have up in VS Code, it does, but for
Mhm.
some reason it's specifically JavaScript right now.
Yeah, it might be because of the you don't have the runtime to do it, the Node.js or whatever. But you can run it through in the terminal. So
Okay.
you can go to terminal, new terminal, and then you'll run it by just calling it by node example, whatever your file name is called. So you'll say node and then the file name, and that will run it. So hopefully that works. If it doesn't, we can try something else. Oh, and we see our little fix there of adding number on worked very well. Let me, sorry, I'm trying to go back to the taskbar here. So this is where you will see, again, a lot of the data types we use, and we can see, I said, okay, we can use double quotes, single quotes, or even backticks. Usually we use that when adding a variable in there. What is that called? I have worked all day and I'm tired. Brandon, can you help me out here? What is it? It's not concatenation here.
What are you looking for? Sorry.
The
Oh,
terminal.
F strings? Is that what?
Yeah, the F string. I'm trying to remember what the actual
I
full.
think it lists it in oh gosh, I saw it literally the other day. I know what you're referring to, but I can't think of the name of it either.
Yeah.
Might be
Uh,
string
Isn't it a string
interpolation.
literal?
maybe. Maybe. I don't know what I'm trying to think.
String
No,
interpolation.
interpolation.
Interpolation. Yes. There y'all go. Good job. Um, it's been a while since I've worked in this stuff, and then every cohort I got to refresh for sure. So, yes, you can use backticks for the interpolation, which will take a variable that you can inject, and this is, of course, dynamic then and changing based on where you got it from. Oh my gosh, it's right here. Right underneath where we were talking about it. Um, Numbers, you can have integers, you can have floats. Floats are your decimal places. Floats get really annoying when you're trying to return values. You'll have to use a lot of methods from the math library, which is built into the JavaScript suite here. So you'll have to do things like math, floor down, floor up, or whatever to make sure you're handling your decimal places correctly. And we will have some experience with this as we go on. Just hinting that this will be very important, learning how to handle numbers and math in your code for your first assessment. Booleans, we know are true or false. undefined. We kind of touched on that earlier with that one problem that if it doesn't have a value, it's going to be undefined. So that's not saying it doesn't have, like, it doesn't have anything. It's just saying it hasn't been assigned a value yet, if that makes sense. But when it definitely doesn't have a value, that's when we say it's null. Kind of confusing. This you can see as like a placeholder where this is the value. And then we have arrays, which we will go more into these with some of my future challenges here. Arrays, or in Python, it's known as a list. We use these square brackets and just have multiple items within these arrays, and we refer to them with their index. And then the last data type we have is called an object. Another name you'll hear, I think for Python, it's a dictionary. And these are key value pairs. They have a key that identifies the variable name basically, and then the value of that here. But this is all within one variable defined here, surrounded by curly brackets. And we access them either with the brackets, or you could use dot notation, which we will go in later too. But please keep this up next to you, this little data types reminder here, as we move on to the next challenge. So thank you very much, Brenda, for working through that. Let's see. Next challenge. All right, here we have the twin gates. So the concept is going to be this equals operator versus this equals operator. Two enchanted gates stand before you. One accepts imposters, one only accepts exact matches. So here we have let key code equals 7. You notice it's a string. And then we have two conditions. We have if this key code equals 7, this rusty gate will open right here, which it was so cool. ChatGPT could read that and give me my image like I wanted it. And then on this side, we have if this equals 7 again, then the golden gate opens. So next up, I have Liz. So when you're ready, if you want to kind of reason out what you think, which gate is going to open for us out of these two and why? Thank you, Brandon. Holy cow, you type so fast. And this is going to deal a little bit with the coercion we were talking about. Obviously, since 7 is a string and not a number, there's got to be something going on here.
I'm not sure about the double equal, but I'm sure that the 3 equal ones, it's not gonna work.
Yep. And why is that?
Because I can't really explain it, but like I think the 3 equal signs, it's like no exceptions, like it has to like completely match.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
that is what I'm sure about the 3 equals. I'm not quite sure what's gonna happen with the double equals because I know there can be exceptions. So I don't.
Yeah. So you had it right on that the 3 equals is not going to open because 3 equals means that this matches this completely, data type and all. So it's going to check data type to make sure it's the same data type, which automatically that is not the same data type. We have a string and a number. So these do not match whatsoever. Now, seeing that 3 needs it to match in value and data type, what do you think the 2 requires? One of these has to open. So obviously the rusty gate's opening for us because we've established the golden gate is not, unfortunately. So since this opens, something has to match, right? Like this has to be true if it opens. So then what do we think the doubles checks?
I guess that there's a number in the string. I mean, something that might match.
Yeah, so it definitely checks that something matches. And this is where we have that pesky little data coercion or data type coercion going on that we saw in the last example too, with the 105 or the 10 and the 5. These match because this double equals allows data to be coerced into a different data type if the value essentially matches. So because it's a 7 here and a 7 here, this double equals allows it to match, basically. It says, you know, close enough. You meant 7. Whether it was a string or an integer doesn't matter. You meant 7. So,
Okay.
good job. Which gate is better? Which one should we probably be using for the most part?
The triple equal.
Yeah. So very few times would you want to allow that type of data coercion. There's a reason we have oh gosh, I always forget the name of them, but like Java and C# static typed languages. I forget what the full name of those is too, but they identify the type of variable before initializing a variable. So it's good to have that. It can be restrictive at times, but you want to be restrictive in your functions and applications. So best practice is always use that. Most linters, and the linter is your little squiggly lines in the VS Code that's telling you, hey, something might be wrong here. Most of them will try to get you to use the 3 equals where you can. The only time this might be acceptable, the only time I figured that this might come handy is when you want to check for both null and undefined. So if you do value equals null and you use this equals, it will also catch that conditional statement for undefined as well, because null and undefined coerce into the same value, static typed. Yes, exactly. Thank you. I love the little side chats going on to give all the background. Hopefully y'all find that helpful too. Okay, so that was room 3. Thank you very much. Any questions on these 2 operators? Let me pull up the taskbar here and get this up. So operators in our README, you can see right here, we have a whole bunch of different operators you can refer to. Of course, all of our arithmetic operators, or however you want to say that. But then this is where that equals sign would have fallen in right here. These operators. We also have not equals to. Love a not equals to when filling out your functions. It's a very handy one. Greater than, less than, equal to, and the logical and operator. So if both these conditions are true, or the or operator if either or of these conditions are true. So always handy to refer to these. All right, let's move on to the next room. Room 4, we have the potion shelf. This is going to look into arrays and indexes. So Dusty Shelf holds 3 magical potions. The wizard insists the visibility potion is on shelf number 3. Is he correct? So here we can see our potion shelf, and he wants to pull off potion 3. Let's go ahead and copy this down, and then it will be Orain doing this one. So after you've copied it down and thought about it for a little bit, tell me if he is correct. Is the invisibility potion on shelf number 3, like this says? And why or why not?
No.
Sorry, what was that?
The answer is no, it's not on shelf 3.
Okay, yes, absolutely. It's not on shelf. Why?
So arrays, you start at index 0. So healing is 0, index 0. strength is index number 1, invisibility is index number 2.
Perfect.
So,
yes.
so he would need to change that 3 to 2 to get the invisibility potion. I think I haven't finished writing down the code, but I think if you do 3, it should return 0 or null.
Okay.
I can't remember, but
Well, go
let's
ahead and
see.
try it. Tell me what y'all get when you console log it.
So, undefined.
Undefined. Yep. So it actually doesn't throw an error. If you get an undefined in your application, if you don't handle it, it will actually just keep plugging away. So be careful when grabbing items from your arrays. Make sure that you have some statements to try to catch if it's out of bounds of the array. But here we can see to access an item in this array, you would reference the index that it sits at. And as we just heard, index starts at 0 for the first item, and then 1, 2, 3 goes on and on.
What would we put to handle the undefined? What could we write?
So you could do like a try catch. So you would try to grab this potion at 3 and then
With if statements?
well, you don't have to
With
do
if and
try
else
catch.
statements?
Yeah, you could do if
Okay.
else. So you could assign this to a value and then say if that value does not equal null, which as we just saw, we can use the double equals for that loose definition of equals, and it will catch undefined and nulls. So you can say if this value that we're trying to grab. So I would do like let invisibility potion equal potion index 3. If invisibility potion is not equal to null using the 2 equals, I guess I could put this in VS Code, but let me pull that up here. VS Code, we're going to put this in here. Okay, so I would say we're not going to console log it. I like to have a space. So let's say let invisibility potion equal, and we access it by potions, and then well, we're gonna say it's going to equal this potion at 3. Okay. Why is that looking weird? And then we're gonna say if oh, I haven't worked in JavaScript in a minute. Invisibility potion is not equal to, well, we could say if it's equal to null, we'll go ahead and just do something like, oh, it doesn't work. Otherwise, you can continue on. So if that is equal to null, curly brackets to say what we're going to do now if it meets this condition. So if it equals null, let's go ahead and just console log. I'll say we grabbed the wrong potion. Okay, so that is the first part of my if statement. You can end it here and just continue on with the program. Or you can write yourself the little else, do this instead. So let's say console log. You grabbed the right one. Spell. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. Oh, wait, why? Oh, it's potions. There's an S at the end. I knew it looked weird. It wasn't picking it up. There we go. Now it sees it. I figured that out if y'all didn't catch it because I got this error down here, a reference error, saying that something's not defined, just like we did with our variables and scoping. We can see it said very clearly potion is not defined because there is no such thing as potion. This array is called potions. Okay, now let's try this. And we can see, oh, it grabbed the wrong potion. So that's how you can handle it gracefully. You can use some if-else statements. You can do some try-catch stuff. But the condition is like if that is equal to null, which will also coerce into undefined as well. Yep. All right. Any quick? Yes, Sue.
Could you also iterate using a loop? Like iterate until you find invisibility and it comes back to with the shelf?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. We could definitely do it was so we don't have to grab it by the, let's say you didn't know where it is. I don't know
Right.
where it sits on this shelf. We could say, for gosh, what is it? Let I equals 0. I haven't put together one of these. I is less than the what is it? Potions, not potions, potions dot length. Is it less than or equal to? Or is it semicolons in between? See, syntax, I don't work in JavaScript daily, so I need to glance at syntax sometimes. And then we're going to iterate through with I++. Right, this looks like the general setup for a for loop in JavaScript, correct? We can also do a for each, or yeah, we can do a for each, but we're just going to do a regular old loop here. So we could say, let's loop through and say, if potions at the position of I, so it's gonna, oh, I gotta put the parentheses, sorry. What is this gonna do? If this potions at I, what is I in a loop?
It's the
The
index, right?
Yes, yep, it's the index. So we're starting at index 0, which is the beginning of this array. And we're going to go through and we're saying at each index. So the first one would be index 0. So at this one, if that value equals, and we're looking for invisibility. Oops. Invisibility. So if that equals invisibility, we're going to do something. What are we going to do? Let's say, let's first find the location of it, right? Probably good to see what location it's on, just so we know. Because yeah, we could just grab it and we could say, hey, you've got the invisibility potion, but maybe we want to know where it's at in this array so we can refer to it later as well. We can grab it when we want. So how can I tell where this is at in this array? What would I need to print to my screen right here? If I'm iterating through, I'm grabbing the value of potions at this index, and I'm trying to compare it to this invisibility word.
So wouldn't you like do your statement first and then do like the $ curly brackets index? Or I mean I'm sorry.
So yeah, we could definitely do, yeah, you're talking about the string interpolation, right?
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
yeah, so we could definitely say found the invisibility potion at shelf, and then let's throw in I. I think that's right. We'll print it and we'll see. I mean, and then if we gotta go figure out what's wrong with my syntax, we'll do that later. So here we're iterating through each item in this array. We're checking if it meets a certain condition, which we said if that location if that value at that location equals invisibility, then go ahead and say we found it and on what shelf. Let's go ahead and handle what happens if it's not that. So it's because it's going to go through. I mean, we could leave it just to iterate through, but let's go ahead and just, hey, it's not at shelf. Let's handle this side of it. Let's say, it's not on shelf, whatever that is. Okay. All right, let's run this and see what happens. And if I need to fix syntax, because it didn't look right. $sign is not defined. Is it within the backticks?
I think it is.
So
I think
you
it's next to the curly
next
bracket.
to the curly brackets, I thought it was like right out.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Perfect. See, y'all already know your fundamentals better than me. I've whatever C#, I think what I'm working in is in the front. So, and PowerShell too, I think maybe that's in the front. Ugly, awful thing. Okay, this looks better. This is what I was thinking I would see, where it lights up gold and shows you it's a variable instead of just part of the string. So I knew something was kind of wrong, but y'all should just write code and then run it and figure out what is wrong in the terminal and fix it. That's how you're going to learn. That is the best way to really cement your fundamentals here. Okay, so we can see, oh, that's from this one up here. Let's copy this out so that, or not copy, comment it out so we don't have that running. I'll clear this, clear, and we'll run it again, and we can see it looped through. All right, found, but if potion I equals, oh, it's a 1. Okay. I kind of said the answer out loud, but why is it telling me it's found on every single shelf?
Because you did one equal sign, shouldn't you have done a strict one?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do an absolute, like, it must match completely and run this again. Okay, now we can see perfectly. It's working perfectly. It's not on shelf 0. That word didn't match. It's not on shelf 1, and then it found it on shelf 2. Good job, team. Way to go. We found it for the wizard. He didn't know where it was at. We found it for him. And thank you, O'Rain, for coming up with the quick response too, for sure. All right. Let's move on to our next one. Are we good to keep going? Do we want to take a brief break? We've been at this for 50 minutes. Fair warning, I have 10 slides, so let's do one more. Let's do one more, get halfway, take a break, and then we can come back and do some more. And we can gauge whether or not we're going to breeze through the rest or keep doing some good involved practice like this. I'll base it off your feedback. Okay, so next one, we have the mimic chess. No good D&D battle is complete without a mimic. Here we're going to go over objects, which is one of our data types, right? Has the key value pairs. So a treasure chest snarls and demands, name my context correctly or be eaten. Why does this final line fail? I mean, it's pretty obvious why, but Seb? Yes, you are here. I had it covering your name. I'm still learning y'all's faces and names, so give me a few classes. Seb, this one will be yours to take. And just whenever you're good and ready, let me know why you think this last console log's gonna fail. First, how do we, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I think because we don't have any variables named key.
Yes, exactly. Like what I was I was like, this might be too easy, but we don't have anything named key in here. And what does this square bracket, well, and also, tell me the difference between this console log where we're referring to a square bracket and then have this item as a string, and then why this square bracket just is referring to key without a string. What's the difference between those two?
Item. I think it's like the value of the the object that they created to
Okay.
get to get access to them.
Yep, so this is one way you can get the value of a specific key. So these are called key value pairs within this object. So this whole object is called chest. How we can access the value of a specific key is we do these square brackets, and then we put the name of that key as a string. So this one is explicitly saying, hey, give me the value of this item key in the chest. So this one should print map because that is the value. Dot notation does the same thing, but sometimes it's a little cleaner. Like we don't have to remember to put parentheses around our key. It's saying this object dot this key, and it will give you the value of that location. Now this, it kind of looks the same as the first line. So I would think that maybe if we had key in our chest object, it could find us the value, but we're missing parentheses here. And when you don't refer to it as a string within the, or sorry, not missing parentheses. I meant missing, oh my gosh.
Quote.
Yes, thank you. The brain has stopped braining. When you're missing those, it's not going to refer to this key anymore. This is referring to a variable defined somewhere else called key. So this would be like if we had let key equals something. So let me take this into our VS Code and we'll kind of play with this a bit and see what I mean. So clear this out. So this right here would be if I had another variable called key and I made this one say locked. Okay, so now I have a variable called key and it's given this value of a string locked. So now when I call this chest key, what do you think it returns?
I think it would be an error because it's not part of the object. So we should not put chess in front of it.
Okay, but it gives me something. It gives me true, which if we look in this chest, we could see that locked has a value
Okay.
of true.
So you put the value of the object inside this variable.
I put the value of the key of inside this object in the variable. So the object is the whole thing. The key is one of these items within it. So yes, I put this key locked as a variable. I assigned it to this variable. Ultimately, key is just console log. Key is just the string locked. So if we run this again, we can see it prints out locked down here. So key, this variable holds the value locked, which is a string. It's got the string locked. So here, when I've got the object and I'm doing how we reference the value of a key within this object, it's got, instead of key here, you can imagine it's taking that value of locked and plugging it in here. Are we following along? No. So objects are going to be one of the harder data types for y'all to get used to, but it will come with time. I'm trying to think of another way to explain this. We all agree, though, that right now this variable key is locked, right? Okay. So when we come down here to where this is using key, we could take that out and just put in locked. This is what calling that variable key is actually doing. It's pulling in that value of locked. And when you try to get the value of an item within this object, you reference it by doing a string and then the key name. Okay, let's see if sorry, I didn't mean to, I'll put it back up in a second, but I want to see if this has objects here and maybe explains it differently. No, it's pretty much saying the same thing. So in order to access the value to an assigned key, we have to call it like this. The name of the object, square brackets, and then the string key that we're looking for.
Oh, they say you can also reassign.
Yes, yes. So you can also reassign. Let me, you can reassign the value. So we could say, let's lock this chest. So first, how do I access the value of locked? How do I grab it and access it?
How do you access it?
Sorry, what was that? My volume was low.
Hold on.
So we can look at how we're kind of doing that up here, accessing each of those items. How can I access this value? I wanna just access it so I can change it.
So you have to put the object name chess
Yes.
and put the value, the key value and bracket.
Yep, the key name next. So we start with chest is what we're starting with. That's our object. We're going to do a square bracket, or you could do dot notation as well. And I want to access this value, so that's locked. Let's go ahead. Now, I have a variable that's got the value of locked assigned to it. So I can either type out locked like this, or since I see it's already defined in a variable up here, I can just use that as well. And it's the same thing. Yes, oh, Rain, sorry.
I was gonna say, couldn't we just add the key in the chest if we just wanted it to log on the console where we had it before, just to make it easier? So if we wanted it to be an item inside the chest as well.
Yep, you could do that as well, for sure.
Okay.
But we're not adding things, we're just gonna access and change things right now. We could, I'll add something in just a second. We'll see that at play too. So let's get back to changing. I want to change this value. I want to change it to false, and then display that up here on the screen. So I'm going to try to access this locked key and its value. I could just grab this variable where it's already defined, but because I just want to be very explicit with what I'm doing, I'm grabbing it here. So we're going to say that that chest object's locked key is going to now equal false. And this is all I have to do. So now let's go ahead and console log this again. We'll replace that. Okay, so what do we expect to see with our console logs? We'll take these out. What do we think will print to my screen now?
False.
False.
Okay, so I have two console logs here. Am I going to get false for both of them?
I think you should get true for the first one because you didn't change it yet, and false for the second one.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a good hunch here. And that is exactly what happens. So code, of course, executes top down most of the time. And we can see that the first console log is accessing this value as it exists in this object right there. Then we change the value here. We just access that value and set it to something new. We're setting it to something new here, and then we, again, print it out on the screen. We are accessing it the same way we did before, where we reference the object and then the key that it's located in, and we can see the value did indeed change. You can also add things to this object. So we locked it up now. Let's throw the key in the chest. We're going to add the key to this object so it becomes one of these keys in here. So here we can literally just make it. And we can use single quotes here as well. Single or double, that's fine. We're going to make a new key value pair, and we're going to name it key. And this is going to equal, let's make it the gold key. So now, how do I print the keys? I'm trying to remember the syntax. Okay, how could I print these keys of this object on this screen afterwards? Because I want to make sure that that got added to my object. So how can I go through and print every item key value pair within this object?
Would it be console log parentheses chess?
Let's take a look and see what that does. Okay, let me clear this out. Oh. All right, perfect. Does shows all key value pairs. It's good now, but wait until we get into Python, and then it's not going to be so nice. But JavaScript is great, and it showed the whole thing. So we could see that it did indeed add this new key value pair. So doesn't have it when we start and initialize this object, but down here, just by saying that it's, within this object as a key and assigning it a value, it adds it for us. Easy as that. The chances of you all using objects in the next few weeks is very low. There are some challenges that would be better to use objects in, but almost every challenge you can solve with any other data type, just an array or whatever. But as you get more experienced and get more comfortable with your coding, you're going to love objects for every aspect of your code. But it will come with time, so don't worry if this is very confusing. I avoided objects like the plague through most of my cohort because I didn't understand them, but it will come. Any questions on this before we, oh, yes, Sue.
I noticed that unrelated, but I noticed that you are able to do commenting out more than one line at a time. Can you just tell me how you do that?
Yes, absolutely. Stop me when you see cool little tricks like that so I can tell you all. So you just need to highlight what lines you want to comment out, and then you do Control /.
Thank you.
That will also uncomment them as well. So if you want to uncomment lines that you had previously commented out, you highlight them and control backslash. Or command, I guess. I'm working on Windows, sorry, so those that have Mac, command backslash.
I to add to that, if you hit the shift button and then up, you can highlight the code faster too.
All the way up. I'm going to do so many things that people have better solutions for, but I mean, y'all will get into your flow of what you like to do with your code. All right, any other questions before we take a little break? Okay, I am going to put this down and pause recording real quick. All right, let's resume our trip through Debug Dungeon. I'm sorry, I get such a kick out of this. I have so much fun creating it. All right, the next room we have here. This is the endless corridor. We're going to look at while loops now. So not for loops, while loops. You begin walking down a hallway. 10 minutes later, you realize the hallway never ends. Escape the corridor. So we can see we have a let steps equals 0, while steps is less than 5. You walk forward. Solve this, fix it, so we don't keep walking forward forever. And then let's see who is up. Oh, it's gonna be Steph. Are you back? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so when you're ready to take a stab.
So we need something outside the brackets, I think, to end the loop. Let me think.
So we have this steps equals 0 right here. So try to use this maybe to help you end your loop.
Sorry, I'm still typing it in.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Brandon's slacking here. I'm kidding. All right, so while you're typing it in, take a look at it and see why is it never meeting the condition? Like what's not happening that needs to happen?
Would it be steps plus plus?
Yeah, where would I put that in this?
Let's see. Outside the curly brackets.
Okay, if I put it outside of the curly brackets, so this while loop, it's going to execute everything in the curly brackets and then go back to the beginning and do it again. So it doesn't go past the while loop while it's still looping through. So you're close. VS Code.
So it would go inside the curly brackets underneath console log, you walk forward.
Yes, this is a good place. Let's put this here. Steps plus plus. Okay, and what does the plus plus do?
It keeps it going for each loop until you reach 5.
Okay, so this adds to our variable up here, right? The plus plus is also the same thing as saying steps equals steps
Plus
plus one. Right. This is just a nice shorthand version to do that addition and increment all in the same step without having to type it out. Okay, so now this loop, which thankfully we're passing in, or we have this condition while steps, this variable is less than 5. We're gonna walk forward, but then it's going to, in this loop, increment this variable by 1. So it'll keep running through this loop, and each time, so it increments it by 1, and then it comes back up, and then now steps is going to equal 1, and it's going to check that condition. Still hasn't met, so it's going to loop through again, keep walking forward, and it's going to do that until steps equals 5. Let's print our steps to watch this happen in this loop as well. Okay, so at the first time through this loop, steps is 0 because that's what we have defined it as, and you walk forward. Then we add 1 to steps. So then when it comes back up here and runs again, now steps is equal to 1. So we keep walking forward, and it just keeps doing the same thing till we get to the end where steps is now equal 5. So when it comes up here and does that 5 is less than 5, it's not going to meet this condition, so it exits that loop, and it won't log it because it stops before it goes back inside this loop, inside the brackets. Any questions on this while loop?
Yeah, just real quick. It was an infinite loop before you did step increments, right? Because then it was just reading as steps always being 0, so it was always meeting. It was never going to meet that 5, right? Is that
Absolutely,
what I
like
heard you say?
100%
Okay.
correct. Yes, that
Okay.
is. Let's do it here. We can see.
Oh yeah.
And if you guys get in this, like eventually it will just crash when it runs out of space and memory, but you can Control C will stop your terminal from running the file. So if you get in something like that, Control C and try to figure out what went wrong. And we can see, since we're console logging our steps, we can see that the steps is just always 0 forever. So we can never meet that condition. While loops, oops, I did not mean to click out of there. And it always brings back up the slideshow. While loops are dangerous if you don't have a nice exit strategy or a way to meet the condition. So just be careful with your while loops. We'll sometimes have like while something equals true, do this, and then when it turns to false, stop doing it. That's a perfectly acceptable reason to use a while loop. But a lot of times you can just use a for loop instead of a while, and it's fine. Okay, any other questions on this one before we move on to the next one? Okay. Let's see. So we now are in room 7. And, oh gosh. I'm sorry, I'm looking at messages here. Okay, skeleton guard. So this one, we have logical operators. So we touched on this a little bit when we were looking at the equal operators. We saw there were some logical ones as well, which are ands and ors. So a skeleton knight blocks the doorway. It fears swords and magic. Why won't it let you pass? Based on this snippet here. So here we defined has sword equals false, and then has magic equals true. And this function, or this condition here says if has sword and has magic, console log this, else console log that. Let's see. So who is up now? We're gonna have Steve. This will be your problem. So tell me why I can't pass.
This is me guessing it. 512 on the California coast, and I'm tired. So the has sword is false. So if has sword and has magic, I'm assuming those both have to be true for it to print you defeat the skeleton. If one of them is not true, it's going to print the skeleton blocks your path, and so I think it's going to print the skeleton blocks your path.
Yep, exactly. So when we use the and operator, it has to meet both of these conditions to be true. And the first times it sees a false, it's going to exit this immediately and use the else statement. How can we fix this so we could pass?
Hmm. I mean, obviously you could change it to true, but um,
Without changing our variables.
right. You
Let's,
could say you can make it an or.
Yep, exactly. We could change this to an or. So let's pull it up here. Let's clear our never-ending cycle we had down there. And as we ran it, we saw that it blocked our path because we have this and. But if we only require one of these things to be true and not both, oh, let's see. Hang on, sorry. I don't know how to try to get this larger here so y'all can see. I haven't ever made my word size larger in VS Code.
So go to settings down at the bottom left.
Where my little
Yeah, there. Yep, go to settings. And then it's right there. Nope, right there. 14. Yeah, thank you.
See, let's see if we can, is 20 good for y'all? Okay.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we've decided that since he fears both of these things, it just needs to be one or the other to let us pass. We don't need both of them together. We just need to have one or the other. So let's change this and to be an or operator instead. So this is our or operator, and you can find that in the README in that little handy cheat sheet of operators. Now it will evaluate if either one of these is true. And when we hover over, look, it tells us if either one of these is true, then it will perform the logic there. So we can see we defeated it now because we has magic.
Could we also do an if statement to do like if like the has sword and has magic, if has sword or has magic. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So we could do that. In this case, I don't know if so we could put that here. So then this one obviously would come out false. So then in this we'd do else if. I like to move it down. And then with else ifs, you also need an else at the end too, I think. No, is it? What is it? I need to look at the logic for this. I know or not the logic, the syntax. Let me
No, you
pull
don't
it.
need it. You do not need an else.
I don't need an else. It's just keep doing ifs in JavaScript.
I
'Cause
think
know
you can just have if and
Just-
else if.
if and else. I swear there's
And
a.
then you need a
Does
condition.
does JavaScript do elif or is that just Python?
That's just
That's
Python.
Python. Yeah. I swear there was something. I mean, yeah, we could just string a whole bunch of if statements to get. Oh, of course it does do else if, but we need a condition.
Yes, you need a condition.
Yeah. So we need a condition to do an else if.
If you don't have anything outside of the if and else if, then it will just skip these two blocks. The else is just to catch everything else. But if
Yeah.
you don't want that, it'll just leave it blank and it'll skip these two blocks.
Okay, a thing. Let's put something in here. Okay, once we populate that, that's fine. Okay, so if has a condition, and then also our else if will have a condition. Let's say else if has magic. And I could just do this, right? I don't have to put has magic equals true, just like we did up here. These evaluate to true or false through the variable, how it's defined. So we say else if we has magic, let's go ahead and A magic. And I don't know. Something. And then we could, I mean, we still want to throw in our else here because we need to know when we don't defeat him. So, console log. So now this should go through the first one and it won't work because it requires both. Let's make this, instead of you defeat the skeleton, we'll say you gloriously defeat the skeleton because we're using both at once. Else, if we just have one of them has magic, then magic will win. But yeah, so perfect. Magic wins. You could definitely string a bunch of ifs and else ifs together for sure. You can also just have a bunch of ifs. I need to look into, I forget the details of how else if differs from if when you have them in a row. But that was a good question. Any other questions regarding these operators and or just writing your statements here? Okay. Then let us get to the next slide. So let's see. Here we have the spell book. It's going to look at functions. So we've been doing a lot of just conditional statements. Now we're going to look at an actual function, which we define as function, the function name, any parameters we pass in, and then of course the curly brackets are surrounding what the function does. So here we discover an ancient spell book. The spell appears to work, but nothing happens. Why? Why does nothing happen? And this is going to be on Sue to try to attempt to figure out.
Okay, so we have the function, and then your console.log, but you don't have, you say nothing is happening, right?
Yeah, it says nothing happens. The
Okay,
spell appears to work, but
I
nothing
think,
happens.
yeah, I think it's because you don't have a return statement after let result, so nothing is happening.
Correct. So we have the functions doing something, but we
Yeah.
never return anything. So when we're trying to console log the function itself, nothing returns from this function.
Yeah,
Now,
wouldn't you say, I'm sorry,
sorry, what? Go ahead.
wouldn't you say return result here?
Yep, so you can return result, and then that would, what would that do? If I console log this cast spell and plug in fireball, what would I see if I did return result?
You would have that you cast fireball.
Yep, correct. So that is one way to solve this. What's another way you can solve this to make sure you can see the spell being cast?
I don't know. I thought it would be by
Yours is
returning.
definitely the best way to solve it. I'll say
Okay.
that. You want to return something from a function. Most functions should return something, but sometimes you have a function just doing something and creating side effects instead of actually returning a value. So let's look at that and pull in the code here. Let's take out that, make it a, okay. So we already said that as long as we put this return result, which is what we've stored our print statement in, well, actually, so before I do anything more, what happens if I just did this? What do we think would happen here?
It would call a function.
It would absolutely call the function. Would I see anything in my terminal?
Yes.
Would I? Is there anything on here saying console log anywhere?
No.
So this is kind of tricky because we see this string here and we automatically think, okay, this is going to show up on my screen. Cool. But that's just the value of this variable. So we're defining a variable to be this string, and then we return that variable, but nowhere now do I have a console log. So there's no way to actually see the output of this function. It's doing it. So that's why we had console log wrapping around this function, because it's taking that return result and printing it onto our screen. So now, given that, we can also solve this by throwing a console log in here as well. And let's go ahead and take out that return. And we'll see what happens here. Ho-ho, I can see it, but I don't have a return statement. How is that so? It's because this is one of those functions that doesn't return anything, but is creating side effects for your application. And the side effect is just something in my console.
Yeah, but that's,
Oh, go ahead.
but you want to return, right? You want to have a return statement.
Most of the time, yes, you want a return statement, but there are plenty of opportunities, or not opportunities, there are plenty of times where you won't have a return statement either. Just depends on the use of the function.
I was gonna ask you if you have like like a use case, maybe like something on top of your mind that you would do this but not need it to return.
Most of the time I would do that with something like this where I need to show something on a GUI or a screen or put in a log, but not necessarily return a value of. So if I'm logging things to a log file, I would call a function that would just automatically write it to a file, but I wouldn't save that value in a return statement. Once it writes it, I would just move on. So that's one use case. But you'll see that a lot, like printing something to the console is the biggest side effect ever. You usually don't do this. So anytime you see something printed to the console, it's called a side effect, and you can use a function to just do that. And we're going to eventually create an application that's literally just side effects of functions printing into the screen for one of your first applications, because we haven't taught you how to make a front end at that point. But again, figure out what the purpose of your function is, and then decide if you should return something or if you should just have a side effect. Good practice, just return all the time. It didn't hurt. We were able to return the value and print it. It's fine. But I just wanted to make you aware there are times when you don't have to. Okay, any other questions on that one? All righty. Again, functions, we have function, the name, the parameters being passed in, or the arguments, and what the function does within the curly brackets. Let's see. So this next one will be a free for all because we ran out of students. Somebody's missing tonight. So next row we have the arrow chamber, arrow functions. So much like our other functions, but now we will rewrite it, or we have we have an arrow function and we want to make it look like a regular function. So ancient runes cover the walls. To continue, translate the magical arrow spell into a traditional spell. So rewrite this arrow function as a traditional function. Have you all looked at arrow functions yet in your pre-work? Okay, I see some heads yes, so hopefully if you didn't, well, maybe don't be the one to volunteer to answer this, otherwise we can help guide you through it. But take this arrow function and try to write it in that format that we saw the other function, where it's the function, then the name, parentheses, the parameters that are being passed in, your curly brackets, and then what the function does. And if you don't know, take a guess. Take a guess at it, just kind of assuming how this looks and what you think each of these things might be doing. All right. I'm going to pull it up in VS Code and then have somebody walk me through rewriting it. Do I have a volunteer?
I can I can try, and then they can help me if I'm.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to move this down because we're going to rewrite that function. So I still want it to be called unlock door. Okay.
Okay,
So
so we know that we need to say function when we setting a function in JavaScript, right?
mhm.
Well, I'm thinking the unlock door is the function name. And then so you say unlock door, and then it looks like code is maybe the parameter that goes into the parenthesis.
Mhm.
And then you need a curly bracket. And then inside is probably that door code right there. Yeah. And I think that might do it. I don't, can you run it? I think that might do it.
Ooh, it says
Oh,
undefined.
undefined. What I miss?
Let's see, console log door. What are we doing? Unlock door function, unlock door for. I thought you had it too.
There's no return statement.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, there's no return in front of the, yeah, there you go. Yeah. And I just answered this return question earlier.
It's getting late.
Yeah. So do you put return in front of the door?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just put the return up there. That absolutely works.
Oh, okay.
So now, ta-da-da, exactly. That is how we rewrite it. So I'm gonna uncomment this so we can see it clearer. But like we found, this const, that's how we define a variable, right? We have const, let, var. Those are all different ways we can define, or sorry, define and initialize a variable. So we've said const because this is going to be unchanging, this variable. And we've named it unlock door. So that's the name of this variable, which in turn is going to be a function because we're using an arrow function. So this unlock door equals, and then you put in the parameters, and then you do an arrow, which is, the arrow is basically these curly brackets right here. So take these parameters and do what follows the arrow function. Okay, so yep.
The arrow function, is that's supposed to be like the new way of doing it, right?
I, I don't know if it's new or if it probably is. Let's see. Let's see if I'm pulling up our README, see if it says anything about arrow functions on here. Because I don't know no. It calls it fat arrow function too. I'd have to look into that. I don't know the theory or all the history of JavaScript. I did take a game the other day though. JavaScript's been around since 1995. Um, fun little random fact, but I'd have to Google this. There will be times when it is easier to do the arrow function, and when you get into React, arrow functions are a lot easier to do some list comprehension, which we'll go through in one of the next few lectures. I forget which one, but it's easier to use arrow function for that and return your HTML code through React than it is to use a regular function. So use either one you are comfortable with, and both work perfectly fine. We'll be throwing both at you anyways. Any other questions? Sorry, did I need to leave that up there? Are we good? Okay. So now the last room. We'll see how I want to do this. Oh, I have 2 more rooms technically. Okay. So this one will kind of blow through because we kind of did this before. 4 loops, 4 stone platforms form a bridge, yet the first platform is missing. Discover why. And first one with the right answer wins. Why is this loop missing the first room?
Because
Because I,
I equals 1 and not
there you
0.
go.
Yep, you all were saying the same thing at the same time. Exactly. We're starting at index 1 and iterating through instead of index 0. So it's going to leave off that first item in the array. Easy. Easy. That should have been one of the earlier ones. I might redo the order of these rooms. That first one was really hard and then these have kind of gotten easy.
No, it's good because it makes us feel good about ourselves later.
Yeah, look at how much y'all have learned. Amazing. All right, so now the final boss room. This one is going to be everybody does their own solution. And it's part of our challenges for the night, I guess. After hours in the dungeon, literally after hours in the dungeon, we have reached the Dragon Gate. Only those who possess these things, the key, the 3 relics, enough gold, and the strength to survive may leave this place. Your final task is to write a function called final boss that takes in a player argument or parameter. So you can only escape if health is greater than 0, gold is at least 50, inventory contains key, and the inventory also contains all 3 relics. And you want the return statement to be these. Victory, you escape the dungeon, or defeat, the dungeon claims another victim. On the next screen, when we're ready, I have some starter code for you. If I put on, let's see. I did not put on the parameters of the requirements on the next screen. So what I'll do is I'll go to the next screen so we can get the starter code, and then I'll come back to this one and leave this up for you to reference for the requirements. Okay, so starter code. Oh, everybody's favorite thing here. We're going to have an object. Player is an object that's going to be passed into your function. And you write the function. You're going to have function final boss that takes in this player object and write your code here. Somebody who's fast typing. Actually, I could probably stop sharing and grab this, or where do I have it? I can't grab it. Should have put it over here. It's fine. I'm gonna pull up VS Code really fast and pull it onto this other screen and type it out too. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Brandon. All right, so that is the starter code for this problem. Oh, no, go back. No, hang on, I'll pull it back up. Sorry. From current slide, there we go. Okay, so these are the requirements. So basically, what are we going to need to do for this function? When I say that this stuff needs to be this, what is that? What am I going to be doing in this function?
The conditions have to be met.
Yes, we're going to be doing some condition checks. And I need to check pretty much each key in my dictionary. Now, you know what the keys are, so you don't have to like loop through and figure stuff out. You know that you have health is one of your keys, gold is another key, and inventory is another. And the values of those keys are you have like an integer, and then an array. So your inventory value is an array, right? It's got that key, ruby skull, moon crystal, whatever. So you're going to have to find the values of each of those keys and make sure it meets the requirements. So to get started with this first one, just to get you started down the right path, I'd probably do something like if player.health equals 0, then do something. And you're going to have a way that kind of keeps track of all these conditionals. You could either just keep moving through them, or you can have something that tracks where you're at with your requirements. But in the end, if one of these fails, you need to have a defeat. The dungeon claims them. Okay. And also for the inventory check, how can I check if that array contains something?
Would it be the double equal sign and then parentheses key? I'm not parentheses, quotations key.
Yeah, so we the inventory is an array, and we could do that. It would just be the when you go through an array. Let me pull it up here on this side. Sorry, I'm going to go forward again. So when you're going through this inventory array, if you do inventory, then the brackets, you would refer to this each item by its index value, right? So we do inventory square bracket 0 would be key. But there's another easier way. If you do inventory dot includes in parentheses, that's a built-in method that JavaScript has that will tell you if something is in that array. So let me show you an example. Bringing it up on this side. At least I thought I was going to. It didn't let me grab VS Code here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I can do, let's say, let has key equals inventory dot includes, and then we pass in, this says it will return a true or false, indicating whether this specified key is inside of this range. So I'm looking for it, literally key. Okay, so if I console log as key, I would hope that this would say, well, I can't just do inventory, sorry. I would have to do player dot inventory, right? Because it's within an object. Player dot inventory includes key. So let's run this and see what we get. We can see true. So this method right here, which takes in the name of, or the string or whatever you're trying to match, it will look in an array and see if this exists anywhere in the array and return back a true or false. So this would be a helpful little method to use for your checks on the inventory. And I will copy this and put it in the chat as well. Let's see. Yes, yes, yes. So, yep, doing the and operators between all of them would work for sure. Because that means it has to meet all of those, right? If we have those and operators. All right, let me go back to the, dang it, go back. All right. We'll give everybody a little bit more time. It's okay if we don't all finish this. I don't want to eat up too much of your personal work time for the other challenges. I'm going to pause recording so we're not recording dead space. Start it back up in a bit. Recording. Okay, go ahead.
So I have the requirements here. The health has to be greater than 0, gold greater than 50. It has to contain key and it has to contain all 3 relics. So this is the starter code. I just did conditional checks here. So let has health equal or be greater than 0. Check and see if gold is more than 50. See if it includes key within the inventory. In the function, all I did is I checked to see if all of these were true. And if they're true, I'm returning victory, you escaped the dungeon. If any one of them is false, I said return defeat, the dungeon claims another victim. And then console log that, and then all of the conditional statements, and I get true, 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 and then I get victory, you escape the dungeon.
Okay, hover over that has key for me. See what it's saying. Unknown word. Okay, and then up above your let has key equals that. Unknown word.
Because it's not camel case.
Oh. Oops.
The linter. Trying to be so helpful.
I wrote something in the chat if you guys want to look at it.
Yep, so this is one way to fix it. I would probably, sometimes if you have your variables
Now it's
out,
not working.
yeah, so well, look at what
Oh,
line is it
here.
not working?
Console.log has key, so it's the camel case again then. Yep, that was it.
All right, yep. So as I was saying, this works, when you get larger programs and applications, having the variables outside and not being passed into the function can sometimes be a bit dangerous, because you may have some naming conflicts. So
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying put all of these at the top before
within,
the F. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
yep. That's what I would do just to make it a little more foolproof and just make sure there's no unintended issues with those variables. But otherwise, yes, this absolutely
Understood.
works.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions for him from anybody? No. Does anybody else have a solution they'd like to go through? show you my anti-solution if you want. But I'm gonna pause my, yeah. I'll give you another minute, that's fine. Let me make sure my logs look good. Okay. So while we are waiting on Steph, I will show my, so I'm a very imperative coder. We're gonna go through what that means later when we start touching on OOP. But there are usually a few different styles of coding. There's like declarative and imperative. Imperative means you like you're more explicit in your coding. You have a lot more detail in your functions and methods. Declarative uses a bit more of like built-in functionality and libraries to help kind of do. Declarative is more interested in the solution, arriving at the solution versus how you arrive at the solution, if that makes sense. So declarative will just use tools to get to the solution. Imperative details how you get to the solution. So that's just all that, a fair warning. Okay, yeah, let's look at Steph's first.
All right, so I had everything here, and then for the function, um, mine was a little bit more like in a single line here, than Steve's. But I did an if else statement, and for my if statement, I did if player's health is greater than 0 and player gold is greater than or equal to 50 and player inventory includes key. And then I did the same thing to ensure that I know this is probably not like the best shortcut for it, but I typed out individually includes ruby skull, includes moon crystal, and includes ancient coin. And then prints victory, else, defeated, try again, and then final boss player, and then I'll print it down here, or I'll enter it down here, and then it comes out with victory based on what we have up here.
Love the one-liner there. It's using the most of your space.
Yeah.
And that's perfect because we've said that all of these conditions have to be met. So if one doesn't, then the whole thing fails. If we had something where, well, they can have this, but not that, then maybe you'd break it up more. But since we have an all or nothing, this is great. Stringing together all those and conditionals, perfectly fine. See, I love all the different ways you can solve this. Anybody else have a solution they want to share before?
I have a question.
Mhm.
So I did mine similar to the way that Steph did hers. Because I like separated every single player inventory. So it was like player inventory includes key and player inventory includes whatever, right? And then moon crystal and then ancient coin. And so I did it each on its own line. Is like, is there a way we can just combine those into one little space so that it can not be like as long? I guess is what I'm saying.
You mean
Or
like,
does it all have to be individual?
I think you can let me see. If includes can take multiple parameters in there. Player.inventory includes search element, just an element. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can pass in more than just one element. Yeah, it just takes in a string. So we'd probably have to use a different solution then for that. I can't think off the top of my head because it's 8 o'clock at night. Yes.
Imagine it's 9 here. I did like a mixture of Steve's and Steph's. Because I took what you were saying, like I defined like all the variables has key, has rubies, and that made my like if statement a little shorter, if that makes sense. But it might help if I show you, huh? Um, do you mind?
Yeah, no, go for it. And while you're pulling that up, I'm also seeing if we can do includes or something to check if it contains multiple things.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So I used what you started with, right? And then you gave us this. So I sort of down the line and did the same thing, right? And then I just did if player health is greater than 0 and gold is greater than or equal to and has key and has ruby skull and has moon crystal and has ancient coin, then return victory. Else return defeat the dragon. So it's sort of like a mixture of the two.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of times also it is helpful to assign these to variables so then you can refer to it in other areas too as well. Reusable. We want our code to be dry, right? Don't repeat yourself. So if you find you're going to refer back to something over and over, save it to a variable, and then you can just refer back to it instead of typing it all out every single time. So
That's
yeah,
pretty much what Steve did, right?
yeah, yeah. Yep, he had his, then she had him with the in, he had his out, both work, but so, I mean, it's however you want to design your function. I did find you can use a different method called every combined with includes, and it will return true if all your targets, let's see. So this is just handy. I'll share and show real quick. Share this screen. Okay. This was just, I just said how to check if array contains multiple values, JavaScript. Always include what language you're working in. AI overview is pretty good most of the time, actually. And then it should give you the references too. But you can also look at JavaScript documentation as well for this. But it says you can use every combined with includes. So here they have their main array. And then these are the targets. So this would be if you wanted to string together all of those, like the ruby skull, moon crystal, ancient coin, you'd put them in this array. And then you just say like if they has all. So it would be the targets, which is what you're searching for, dot every. And then here we have I guess a fat arrow function, but that's interesting. I don't know this syntax. I have to look this up, but it's taking every value in this array and then seeing if that main array includes it. Oh, this list comprehension, or sorry, like a higher order function, a JavaScript higher order function. We'll look at this later. But it's iterating through, it's taking each value in this target array. And for each of these values, it is seeing if this main array includes it. So here is the solution if you want to do multiple items within another array. Yay, Google, thank you. All right, since I am still sharing here, I'll show my solution. It's kind of crazy. So I did like the anti of everything. Y'all were checking like as long as they met these functions, and I said, I just went through and said if it doesn't, go ahead and return right away. So I'm checking one at a time to see if these things, I could have used else ifs, I guessed, but I did the opposite. So like if my health is less than or equal to 0, then we defeat. So this function is longer and more wordy. However, when you're in a situation where you have a function that eats up a lot of processing power on your server, sometimes as soon as something hits that, condition and wants to break, you want to break the function. You want to stop. Like, don't continue running. So this is a way that would check each individual thing, and as soon as one thing is false, it will return out of the function and it won't use up any more resources continuing through the rest of it. So just another, and I did that because of this exclamation mark here. So we know player.inventory includes key is gonna evaluate out to true. So I wanted to say if it doesn't exist. So I just threw this exclamation mark, which is like the opposite of whatever. So if it's false, basically. I want to make sure that this is if this is false instead of if it's true. By throwing that exclamation mark in there. So that's a fun little thing to use. But yeah, we could see that goes ahead and we escaped. So any questions on that? Very wordy and ugly, but it all depends on your use case. And as we can see, there are tons of different ways to solve these problems. Nothing is wrong. As long as it works, it's right. There's just a matter of optimizing performance and, limiting the amount of resources that it eats up. But other than that, as long as you solve the problem, it's a win. So there's no, oh, well, using this method is better than that method. So don't listen to that. Okay, so that was all for lecture, which was enough. Again, these lectures, I promise they will start getting smaller and smaller as we go on. But hopefully this was helpful. And I'm trying to pull up what your guys' challenges will be for the night now. Definitely after this, before you work on your challenges, feel free to take a break. Oh, let me stop recording.